Welcome to Flory Models. I'm Philip Flory. Kit review time. Today we've got the Super Wings series from Zoukei-Mura, or the SWSs. This is the HO229. This is the famous Horton brothers flying wing, the fighter bomber, the predecessor to everything that didn't have a tail, basically. Again, Zoukei-Mura. Brief history if you don't know about them. They're not exactly brilliantly known over here in the UK. Expensive, very detailed kits. They sort of came very left field a few years ago, and they brought us kits certainly like, just trying to think which ones we got. Well, there's numerous ones out there now from the Japanese type of things, but this quite famously they've done Mustangs, very detailed Mustangs. They've also done, just trying to think, it is Sky Raider, which is the one of the kits I had as well. Just to give you a general idea, when you look at the box art on the back, you can actually see, so we've got full detailed engine, all the structure is clear coated so you can see into there as well, and everything else like that. So generally, having a look around here, we can see it's number 8 in the series of the HO229. There's a little bit about it. You're not going to find much English on the box, I can tell you that. All right. So in the box itself, if it's in their usual way, to be honest, I haven't even looked in here yet, so they have these sort of flip up lids, which are great because it makes them far stronger than the normal one. And immediately off the bat, when you look down in here, you can see we have got tons of it. And we've got a very nice book, the Decals, but as you see, it's piles and piles of plastic, which is handy because this is not a cheap kit. So if we just manoeuvre that out of the way a moment, because we're going to need quite a bit of room for this particular review. So as always, we'll start down here in the actual manual. So what we'll do, we just drop down this camera just a little bit in here. So as you can see, they've done it in that sort of standard World War II type of era. So we've got a little bit about actually what we're going to get in the kit. Sorry, we've overshot the camera. There we go. So it's in the standard Chinglish about it. I must admit, I've seen various documentaries over the years, the different ones. Basically, it was a prototype. It flew, but never saw combat or was introduced and everything else. Unfortunately, it came far too late in the war, or fortunately, depending which way you look at it. It was designed to be initially a fighter, then it was going to be a fighter bomber, then they were even looking at a monster version, which was going to be a long-range bomber. But anyway, the famous Horton brothers, one of their amazing designs. So we've got a little bit of there, we've got a bit on the engine as well, the V2 engine, and we've got a bit about the armor, the 30mm gun as well, the 103. And if you've ever read Japanese magazines and everything else, you'll get a feel for this straight away. It's in that type of level. So you've got the Chinglish things, which is pointing out all the interesting bits on the actual aircraft itself, talks about the markings and things like that. So it's like an index thing, this. Working its way through. So as I said, plenty of instructions talking about your actual call outs, nicer than RLM colours, which we'd expect, and then this is the model air colours they're just calling out for in there as well. Talks about it, we've got some nice clean shots as well, what to expect throughout your build. It's talking about the build and exactly what they are. So part air is the compressor blades, which is down here, and then you've got everything from D, which is the turbine nozzle, and it just talks about all these different areas, giving you the correct names for them, which is the one that I normally get wrong. So nice colour pictures as well of what they should end up with once you're done. So it just makes, you know, research and reference a little bit easier. Very comprehensive instructions talking about, obviously, you know, the blades, the angles and everything else as it goes through. Okay, as you can imagine, it's in Chinglish, so it looks a lot worse than it is. All right, so you just look at the English bits, but if you're new to modeling or new to doing a complex kit, this will really help you. Okay, so just make sure you do read it all, and that'll just make a lot of sense. Talking about, obviously, for the main engine going together, as you can see, all the engine work, all the detail work. As you can imagine, it's going to be a very complex thing at the end of it, putting onto the actual shrouds around it. You can display it as a separate, which is a very nice touch as well, or obviously you can put it into the model. Part 2 or 3 till 2 to 3 as it goes through. Again, it's talking about the framework which is going to make up the actual superstructure of the actual aircraft itself. So as you go through, as you can imagine, it's putting all of the actual framework together, talking about the joins, the paintwork and all the small little bits going in, and then it starts on your plumbing. Okay, working its way around all through the plumbing sets, installing the engines into this, and then more plumbing, the actual connection methods, how the top connects to the bottom, pointing out that this very nice diagram, which, all right, you might think is a bit overkill, but in some ways you always get that thing where it doesn't fit. You shouldn't have any trouble with this, okay? And it goes right the way through. And then onto the main one again. So we're talking about, obviously, this is now the cockpit being installed, the framework for the cockpit first of all going in, and then the actual cockpit parts itself. All right. The instrument panel, you've got the options between the different types as well. Looks here, looks like you're going to have two types of instrument panel, i.e. with or without decals. I think that's the way they're going to do it. And then going right the way through, putting the gear in. So talking about the undercarriage going in. Again, you know, sorry if it's boring going through this, but it is very in-depth. One little touch this thing has got, which I've noticed just then, it's clear. It's clear bodied. The only trouble is, it's not that clear. Nobody's going to be able to see through this when it's on, unless you dip gloss it, and then you might be able to see through it a bit better, but it's going to look fuzzy as hell by it. It's not like it's crystal clear and you can see straight in. Personally, if you're going to do something like this, I'll be more of a fan of cutting off panels, putting a red mark all the way around it and you can see into it like they do in museums, rather than putting a plastic clear part all over it. Personal choice, I know. Anyway, so this is talking about all the body panels going in there, you know, and as you can imagine, pretty well straightforward. Just talking about some of the other parts, the engine shrouds, things like that. So you could have the shroud showing off to show the engines, which would be a nice touch, and what you end up like. Then it's just a case of fitting on these wings, which you would think would be a standard thing. Oh no. Full wing spars, fuel tanks to go in there, obviously painting and detailing all of these items, which you probably won't see when it's covered up anyway. But if you did want to do it as a framed aircraft without the skin on, it would be a very nice thing to have. You've got a locking system, which is quite reminiscent. I can't remember which plane it was now. Had a very similar system where you put the wings on, then you've got plates with pins, and it locks them in. The only trouble is they never sit very nicely if you wanted it to be very flush and all the way through. But what that does enable you to do is, like down here, you could have it displayed open as well. Control surfaces, so the flaperons all going on the back. You've got the spoilers for the wings, or the drag rudder deployment, as they call it. Is that the technical term? Must be. Okay, going right the way through, and then you've got the final things for the final fitting. Actually, look, I used one of the terms correctly. So we've got the doors going on, talking about the angles of the doors, putting those in, the painting for it, and all the other parts going in. You've got the seat, the harnesses, the options going in there. Then obviously we've got the framework, and then we've got the glass work, which is going to go on as well. So you've got the framework that goes into the glass work, which is quite a nice touch because you've got that nice three-dimensional frame system on the inside, and then these being put in. You can have the canopy open or close, pitot tube going in there, the guns and things like that, and then you've got your paint call out, which is nice because you've got the real thing here, so you can see exactly how it's done right the way through. And then at the back, which is unusual because it's normally at the front, you've got the parts call out in there. See, look, need a drink after all of that. Okay, so what do we get in the box? Okay, step one, we have, let's have a look at the decals, seeing as they're just to hand. Okay, so the decals themselves, we've got some die cut masks for the cockpit. As you can imagine, we've also got your decal sheet, which is going to be pretty straightforward. I think they do their own one. We've got a thing here for the fan club, which is obviously their bits. Okay, pop them over there. Right, where do we start? Okay, there's going to be lots of this. So some of it I'm not going to bother debagging purely because of what it is. Like here's a plain example. So all we got here is the wing formers. These are the joiner ones, which have got the holes going through them to actually make the actual where you join onto the wing. So as you can see them down here, they've got the little locating lugs in them, and you've got the other ones on the other side. So very nicely detailed, but you said not a lot of point of getting them out. Right, okay, so let's get the camera in. Let's get the camera straight out again. Right, so we have this wing. This is what we're saying about how clear it is. What we'll do, we'll pop one out the bag just to show. Okay, we can just whip that down there. My point to it is, as you can see, it's not exactly clear. So if you did have just things with writing on underneath, if you've got any type of gap you can't see it. If you push it up to it, obviously it's clear. Okay, but all the parts are going to be more like this. so it's going to blur your view. Okay, so say close, far away, and the distance it has to be, that's probably ½ inch away, and then it's about 1 inch away, I suppose. But as I say, it has to be right close to it to be able to see it. That said, on the flip side, as I say, it's got a texture. You've got some nice details in there. You catch them in the light, as you can see. You've got all the formers pre-done in here, which you're obviously going to be lining up against. But as you can see, very nicely done. A little bit different, something a bit different. So we got here, I presume this is an aileron for the wingtip or flapperoni thing. Okay, just like that. This is going to be a mirror just for the other side, so we're not worried too much about that. Okay, this is a clear part. This has got to be one of the largest clear sprues I've ever seen. So, this is the panels for the engines. Okay, I take it all completely back. This is where this would come to life looking beautiful. This here is the top of the engines. So it's the panel that goes over the top. All right. These here, I'm not sure what they are if I'm honest. This is obviously part of the cockpit section. These guys here are the engines. Go on the bottom of the engines, I do believe, or wrap around the engines, so you can see that detail from the outside. I'm just not sure where they're from. Okay, but generally ultra clear. You can probably see there's no distortion in these items whatsoever, so that just shows how good they are. So there we go, that solves that problem. Okay, this is the skin. We're going to have to call it skin now. You can't call it fuselage halves because technically it doesn't have it. So as you can see, this is the upper body. That's why those clear ones are going to go in here. Okay, they're going to hump over this. So this is the exhaust comes down here. This is your metally colour. All right, so this is how this is going to work. So you will see those engines through there if you elect to do it clear. All right, this is the underside at the back. Okay, the belly of the beast, and this is the other one, which is going to go up near the front, I presume, with the ejector ports for the gun. Okay, again, beautifully done. No sign of flash. Technically, the thing is what you don't notice, and I think that's why they do it. You can probably see it a little bit. You've got the ejector pin marks through here, so I don't think you're going to use that skin in that take. It's just, why do it in that colour? Okay, now we're getting technical. Here we have the, I'll get it out of the packet. Come on, thank you. Come on, there we go. Framework. Okay, so this is the wing spar system, which is going to sit in with that wing skin thing, okay, which gives you all the detail. A lot of this you've got to take out, so you've got all the little pegs and everything else. The reason for putting in these little pegs everywhere is so the ejector pins can push it out, instead of having ejector pins on the parts, which is always a good idea. These are the fuel tanks. I don't take any notice about this from the inside. So you've actually got, this is the top. This is your fuel tank system for the wings. We've got, I presume these are little either nitrogen or oxygen bottles down in here. These little guys here on the side, one is assuming they are the drag for the wings that come out the top of the wings, which give you the rudder effect. Okay. So yeah, generally very nice. No real sign of flash. Little tiny bits, but nothing you would ever get excited about. Okay, as you can imagine, right the way through these. Very, very nice. Very nicely detailed. Okay, so we assume we're going to get a mirror here. A mirror sprue, as in two of the same. Okay, so what we've got here is the engine. So we've got all the itty bitty bits up the top, as you can imagine. And then we're working down through the compressor blades, which all look to be very nice, which is different that they're done in plastic and not in photo etch. And we've got the actual engines, the cowlings, and all the various items to those, which all look very nicely detailed. Can't see any problems with any of this. Okay, at least it hasn't got pistons inside of the engine blocks, which was one of my bugbears with one of their previous kits, because you're never going to see it. That's just the same, so we won't worry about that. Okay, so down in here, I think we're going to have to pop this one open and reseal these later if needed. Okay, so in here we've actually got a one-piece cast. This is for the front section. Okay, very nice riveting detail, all of those things in there like that. So the skin of this is going to be in clear. This is a bit odd, but hey, What do we know? All right, but again, very nice, very seamless actually to this. In fact, the seam is just right the way around the entire front edge, so that'd be very easy just to sand all of that. But as you can see, very nicely done, no problems with that at all. We've also got in here a bit more of the cockpit section. We've got the instrument panel, which has got very fine glass in this. This isn't holes as you might expect. This actually is, we just put it down on this other camera, as you can see, this has actually got tiny little hole, little glass inside the bezels. Okay, and as you can see, we've got very little to no warpage at all in any of those. Beautifully crystal clear. And the last bit out of this bag, we've got the canopy. This is the rear part of the canopy. Again, very nicely done, no problem with that whatsoever. That really is good. Okay. Oh look, things in plastic. That's a first. Probably not used anyway. So I'm not quite sure what those are. Looks like plates for some description. As you can see, pretty standard. Little detail on those. I think they must be an internal part. Okay, so next up we have... Alright, so this is the gear. Looks a bit chunky, but generally we're pretty much okay there. We haven't got weight on wheels, which is a bit disappointing, but we have got... I'm just trying to see what that actually says. Don't something. So I was just trying to read it. Continental. Is that like Continental tyres? So anyway, it has got a little bit of wording on there. We've got all the various parts. All very chunky gear, but to be honest, it has. Hold on. It does say it. So why has it got... Oh no. Sorry. Well, this here has Continental written on the tyres. I don't know if one of the close-up cams can get this. Okay. Picking faults time. But generally, if I just take this out a little bit, hopefully you can see on this guy down here, the new lights are brilliant, but they don't give shadows, so it does cause a bit of a problem. But anyway, this one over here has Continental on it, and this one has Continental. But they've both got D's. Oh, it's like 00. I'm assuming they're doing it to get round some having to pay Continental tyres their fee, or whatever it is. Oh yeah, they're all Continental. It's just that one looks like a D on there. So, you know, I can understand why. It's a bit of a pain having to give kickbacks to these companies for everything you use, considering you're advertising for them. Okay, but generally, as you can see, we've got no flash, no problem on that. Even on these very small parts running around here, they're all very nice and clear, very nice and clean, nicely laid out on the sprue. It's not cluttered, it's not complicated, or going over each other. Okie dokie, so next up we have... We've actually got down here more of technically what's going to be a lot of coming up, I assume, is all the framework, the spars, and everything else like that. Generally, just looking at all I can say is there's no real burring to any of them, i.e. the sandwich between, so they're not going to make massive cleanup or anything else. The guns are a little bit basic, but then, you know, as you say, it's horses for courses on those. It's got a sink mark in the guns as well. Generally looking round, again, no flash, no mismolds, no problems with any of this anywhere, which is quite a nice touch. So that looking pretty good. Okay, so this one, it's like a mystery when you're looking at this one, because everything you know traditionally about building a model aircraft goes out the window. Let's just structural engineer or something, and you're probably thinking, oh, that's the whatever it is. Okay, so as you can see, quite nice this. We've got some very small parts moulded in here. This I presume is the fuel tanks. These are the wing tanks. You can see we've got a fuel line obviously running off of here, so you'd be a bit careful getting that off and not breaking it in the process. Some more, I assume, of what is going to be quite a lot of the mechanical bits inside. More fuel tanks. We're assuming these are the wings. We've got the hoop antenna, as we've seen. Looks like we've got a type of speed brake at the back on a flap system deployed, so maybe you're going to get the option open or shut. No real ejector pins. No ejector pins on this shield. I don't know which part it is, but there's nothing on that at all. It's a clean, crisp mould. Very nice indeed. Okay. Next up, More framework, as you can imagine. We've got loads of this framework all the way through this kit, as you can see. You know, all I can say is it's all very nice. Little bit of burring on this one. There's a little bit just down there, but really good. All of it very nicely done, very clean. Two types of seats. So we've got a normal seat, and then we've got another one with harnesses. So take your pick. Do you want harnessed or non-harnessed? Generally, very nice, all of those. Can't see any problem. These parts here, we've got no ejector pins anywhere internally, so you're not going to have to worry about sanding out those. And the last sprue, amazingly. So I need to lie down after this. Okay, so even this is building up on camera, the pile of all the plastic. Again, lots of framing. This is the canopy frame we were talking about. So as you can see down here, we've got a situation where we've got nice riveting detail in that, and this is something where obviously we wouldn't get it technically, and it's very nice, as you can see, on the inside. All right, so if we just have a cruise around this sprue, as you can see, this is the other one. This is the solid one, which would take a decal. So this is just literally pop it in, put a decal over the top, and job done. Whereas the other one was clear. You could do things with it. All right, so you could put in photo etch sets, because although I haven't seen it, Zoukei-Mura always bring out their own photo etch sets for it as well. So you could probably pick up the color photo etch set and replace it. Big piece of the actual sprue in the middle, as you can see. This is all that spar work, all running down here. All over the place, as you can imagine. This is the framework for the front windscreen, okay, and the bits around the back. And generally, as you can see, it's all very nicely done. So there we go. That is it. That is the Zoukei-Mura Horton 229. Okay. Fors and against. People always ask me about, you know, are they worth the extra money? My point to it is, if you are building a kit and you just want fast results and you're more worried about the painting stage and just want a model to sit in your cabinet with an overall, then obviously steer clear of this and save your money. If you like the engineering side and the mechanical side of it, then this is definitely the kit for you, because obviously you're putting in all the framework, all the spars, everything else now. Everything's visible. You're putting in the fuel tanks, you're building the engines, so it's a lot more. It's probably one or more of those kits for you as a builder, as opposed to going to your partners. What do you think of this? And they go, oh, that's nice, because they've got no idea of the work that went on inside, but you do, and that is the whole point to it. So I think their kits, whilst sometimes can be fiddly, over-engineered as well, generally, if you're going to sit down and go through step by step, and to be honest, their instructions on this particular kit do look a lot better than their previous kits, you should have no real problems to it. If you're new to modelling, I'd cut your teeth on something else rather than jumping in with something like this one. If you're an experienced modeler, you know, even just a basic modeler, you should have no problems with it, because the instructions and the fit is that good. I haven't built this kit, I can't say. All I know is from guys who I know have built lots of their kits in the past. The only thing you have to make sure is just to make sure you clean your paint from your joins when you're joining things together, because with these it's multiple joins. If they're all painted surfaces, you put them together, by the time you come to put the skin on, things don't fit. And I knew that was a particular problem with the Sky Raider, that by the time you put it all together, there was bad joins, and we worked out that if you're taking so many microns per layer of paint, that's probably why. And everything else. But as I said, I can't speak for this kit, I wouldn't know, and I use hot action glue, so it tends to melt paint anyway. But anyway, there we go. That is the HO229, the famous Horton Brothers prototype fighter from Zoukei-Mura. Brilliant kit.